Hi, this is Lenny Pfeffer, President of the Dorchester County Council, welcoming you to the Maryland Association of Counties Conduit Street Podcast, the show that discusses the issues and ideas shaping Maryland policy and politics today.
Hello, Maryland. You are listening to the Conduit Street Podcast, your number one source for policy and political happenings in Annapolis. Now, dear listeners, no, this week your ears are not deceiving you. Sanderson and Canale are out, which means taking the mic is the one, the only, your favorite member of the policy team, Dom Butchko. Now, listeners, we have an action-packed episode this week. We guarantee by the end of your time, you will be laughing, crying, and maybe even having an epiphany, or, and Sanderson approved me to say this, 100% your money back guarantee. Now, we have a powerhouse group of guests today. First, we have a hero of Maryland politics, a man whose impact on the state can be challenged by few. He led the committee formerly known as EHE, now known as Triple E or Quad E, if you know, you know. He passed some of the most impactful pieces of climate legislation enacted anywhere, and now he heads up one of the arguably most important agencies in the great state of Maryland, the intrepid, the honorable Paul G. Pinsky. Thank you for being here, Paul.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
We also have Lacey Allor, right? Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome. Relatively new to the great state of Maryland, but is already doing great things. Formerly from Colorado, but she has seen the light on the East Coast and now heads up a very important program at MEA, which we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, excited for it. The biggest program of MEA.
The biggest and the best. Let's be honest, the best. You wouldn't get on the pod if it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. Best name too, thanks to you, Dom.
We'll get into that. But now, before we kind of go in too deep, so Paul, as I kind of led up in the introduction, you've been around in Maryland politics for a while, and so I kind of want to have a bit of a high-level conversation. You sometimes you agree and disagree with Mako, but you are always someone who stands on your principles, and you really do have an impact. And so I think our listeners would benefit from hearing of some of that experience. So first question, what does the G in Paul G. Pinsky stand for? And before you answer that, I spent 10 minutes on Google trying to find out, and I could not. And so I may or may not have $50 on grenadine, and I may or may not split that, if that is in fact grenadine. So Paul, what is the G?
It is not grenadine. It is not George. It is my late mother's maiden name. Her last name was Goodis.
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 So I keep that. Mm-hmm. And actually my daughters have kept that as well, of my late wife's name.
I love that. Okay. Much better story than I had. Definitely worth losing $50 on.
I'm not sure I like grenadine either, or drinks with grenadine in them. I'm not sure.
All right. So moving on, you spent almost 4 decades in the General Assembly, 1987 to 2023, like Reagan era Annapolis to Trump, and then Biden era Annapolis, and now back to Trump. You've seen a lot. So just in all of that time, what has changed? What can you tell us? What are your big impressions? I mean, a lot of experience there that I think our listeners would like to soak up.
Well, you've defined me as the OG. It's a lot of years, and in terms of the buildup, believe about half. I wouldn't think I'm not Superman, but I spent a lot of time there. And as many people know, the legislature is a part-time job, so I had another career as well. I got into this as a young man leading a teachers union in one of the counties in the state, and I either grew into it or people didn't want to throw me out, so I went through 8 or 9 elections and was successful. I ended up on the Environment Committee, first in the House and then in the Senate. And I served with Brian Frosch, who's a dear friend of mine, who I just saw this week, and who became Attorney General. We served in the House and then in the Senate together, and he was the environmental expert. But then he left to join and lead the Judicial Proceedings Committee, And so it fell on me to be the leader of the environment. And so I learned about the environment and I put in legislation in the first few years. Not a lot passed. Ultimately, a lot did on the environment. And I learned more about climate change as all of us became more acquainted with it and the effects of it. And I think I became maybe not an expert, but at least one of the leading voices in Annapolis on it. And, we passed the Healthy Air Act in 2006 or 2007 to deal with the coal-fired power plants, to clean them up of NOx and SOx. And that had a dramatic impact. And then in 22 or 23, I lose track, we passed the Climate Solutions Now Act, which requires a 60% reduction in greenhouse gas by 2031 and to be emissions-free by 2045. So, and then the governor approached me to lead the energy, and climate and energy overlap. But I have to say, I was not an expert in energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to do a hell of a lot of learning, and I'm still learning. But I have people around me like Lacey and other people who are the experts. And it's been very exciting. We give out a lot of money. It's great to be on the side of the angels. We have 20 plus programs on anywhere from putting solar on a roof or a ground mounted, either residential or commercial, to installing geothermal, which basically runs pipes underground where the temperature is always 55 degrees. So if you have a heat pump in the house or the office, you only have to raise it to 68 or 70. We do energy efficiency. We are supportive of wind turbines. So you name it, we're all the above in terms of promoting clean energy and energy efficiency and moving towards electrification.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so to take a step back,
Yep.
So you started out as in a teachers union. So were you a teacher before that?
I started out as a teacher. I taught high school history. Shocker.
History. That was going to be my next question. What was the subject?
U.S. history, world history, African American studies, Asian studies.
Okay.
Class struggle. Trying to explain history through the eyes of working people, working families, and then I moved to lead a union of 8,000 teachers. Then I was a staff in another county in the state. And then I moved on to the Southern Regional Education Board doing education policy.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the classroom, I worked with teachers, and then I started working, developing policy for 12 or 13 Southern and Mid-Atlantic states.
Cool. So the other thing you mentioned that I want to drill into a little bit, you said that when you took on being kind of the environment person in the House, at first not a lot of bills passed, and then you were able to pass, a significant number, and really a significant number of key environmental pieces of legislation. Before I came to Maryland, I was a local elected official. I was a borough council person. I get what it's like to be new and elected. You're trying to do something, but you can't find your footing. For those listening, there are county elected officials, but also people in advocacy. What were the lessons that you took away from when you're trying to accomplish something? Like, how do you actually get a bill passed? What are the foundations there?
Well, I had a few obstacles. One being a rookie, a backbencher, as it were, and obviously there are a lot of county council and township people who are rookies who aren't listened to as much as the OGs sitting on their councils. And besides that, my viewpoint was fairly different from a lot of the other people. It was not corporate oriented; it was more working and poor families oriented. And that wasn't always welcome. Later on, I became a delegate for Bernie Sanders in 2016.
Shocker. That
would sort of give some context to the listeners of my political perspective.
So you're not a Bloomberg guy?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So go on.
And so, look, in the early years, you put in legislation, some for shock value, some. But as a first, second, third year person on a elected body, you got to build coalitions. And actually, I took on the mantle more in the Senate than in the House in terms of being a leader because Brian was still there. I found over time, building a coalition of grassroots advocacy groups helped a whole lot.
Mhm.
Just explaining my ideas and why it's in the best interest is nice, but if you have people on the ground, communities, organizations supporting you and fighting for you, it might put pressure on people who are undecided. So a lot of my history, particularly on the environment, was working with groups like League of Conservation Voters, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, CCAN, another group here, and sometimes with MACO, sometimes without MACO.
But the best times are with Mako, always.
You didn't always look forward to coming in front of my committee, Dom. I know that. I was not always the most welcoming. So I found that besides trying to convince people, having people pushing from the neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we moved healthcare for all, we had nurses every Monday night flooding the halls.
Mm-hmm.
And it took 3 years for that bill to pass. Now, for the 2 years previously, it was called the 4P bill, the Four Pollutants bill. I changed the name to the Healthy Air Act, which helps in messaging.
Yeah.
And messaging becomes a part of it, but it's not the most important. It really is the substance. And you want to explain why it's in people's best interest to support it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if people are hesitant, you might want to get across the point that if they don't support it, they might not be reelected.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't do it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't always have the help of the Democratic Party or the Democratic caucus of the legislature. But when you can mobilize 200, 500, 5,000 people, it sure as hell helps.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So I just have to get 500,000 people for all the bills.
4,000.
4,000. Oh, 500. Okay.
500,000.
Much lower bar.
That would be tough.
Much lower bar. Okay. So moving on, and you kind of touched on this a little bit. So you were the chair of and what was it?
Education, health, and environment.
Yeah, we got there eventually. So, but you were the chair of one of the most important committees in the Senate. That's a very rare kind of place to occupy in the political universe. Very influential, but you also have to balance different interests. So can you just give us a little peek behind the curtain? What was that experience like, both as an individual, but then also as a politician? That must have been very cool, but a lot of stress. What was it like to be a chair?
It was look. For me, it was the pinnacle. I was, for many years, an outsider, fighting the power, as it were. But ultimately, the Senate President, Mike Miller, who I fought for years and years, the late Mike Miller, who I fought for years and years and years, we ultimately became friends. And he offered it to me. Look, you have to find out the interest of your committee members. You have to see your own agenda. Many, many bills come in front of a committee, and some, are what I call jump ball. Some are no-brainers. Some are deadly. You have to decide what to hear, what to vote on, and you have power. If you don't put something on a voting list because you don't want it voted on, as chair, you have that power. But look, I relied on my committee council. I mean, staffs are very important. They are the experts. And so I rely on them. My longtime chief of staff, Ian Ullman, who is still with me, been with me 15, 16 years, was a great policy advisor in the Senate and now at the agency, the MEA. It was exciting, times challenging. A new Senate president came in. We had some controversial bills, and we had to do some back and forth among us.
Yeah.
I had to listen to the person who led the chamber. Sometimes I relented and backed off, and sometimes you push.
Yeah.
And as a leader, you learn those points as someone, when to leverage, when not, when to step back, when to placate members of your committee, when you just have to say no. And excuse the language, but it ticked off, I was going to use another word, some of my committee members who I might need the next week on another vote. Mm-hmm. But if you say this vote is not, this bill is not ready for prime time, it's tough.
Yeah.
Some people take it in a grown-up fashion. Some have meltdowns. But again, I don't want to say it's no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, but on issue X, you might get 7 votes from this group on this bill, you might get a different 7 votes.
Okay.
So
It's a lot of puzzle pieces. Now I want to transition for a second. So you were in the General Assembly for a while. You served in both chambers. I'm not going to ask you which one is your favorite because I have to work in both.
still awake.
Yeah.
but transitioning now. So you're at the Maryland Energy Administration. You are the director there, the Maryland Energy Czar. You went from legislator to all-powerful executive. Walk us through what that transition is like. Are you liking your role at MEA? I assume you're going to tell our listeners yes, but like what's going on?
No, I love it for many reasons. The people who work there, by and large, believe in the mission.
Mm-hmm.
They're young, they're enthusiastic. I have one of them right next to me who came to us, and they're excited. And I've wanted to change the culture from the previous administration. I wanted people to feel engaged, feel like they're heard. So we've made changes, political and ideological changes, of course, after the previous Republican administration, which is no shock, but also the culture of people getting along and coming in. And I believe in water cooler conversations, organic conversations.
Yeah.
And I'm glad when people are in the building. They're not in every day.
So where are you right now? Is it hybrid, half telework, half in person?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
When I got there, the requirement was 1 day a week and people could pick their day.
Mm-hmm.
So they could come in on a Friday and stare at the wall.
Mm-hmm.
It was ridiculous. We took a poll. What day did people prefer? It was a Tuesday. I advocated to the administration that it be more than 1 day, and it became 2 or 3 days. So now they're on a Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay.
So I believe in-person meetings or someone stepping into your office and saying, I want to ask you about X, or 2 colleagues getting together in the hallway and saying, what happened to this situation? It's just really helpful. And so, and besides that organic conversation about work, last week we had an ice cream social at 1:00 to bring people together. And then day before yesterday, I lose track, one of our staff just had twins. We celebrated him with a cake. So we want people to feel like it's a family. We're very small. We're one of the smallest, if not the smallest, agencies. We want our programs to work. We want, from granting money to an idea from a church, a volunteer fire department, or a county, that the time when we approve the money to when it's actually constructed to be as short as possible. But unfortunately, sometimes they drag out. But we want to build programs that can be replicated. So whether it's large solar arrays, I know there's been a challenge in some of the counties of these utility scale solar operations.
Big challenge, yeah.
And we've learned a lot about, and we've listened to people. I've learned that farmers who farm their own fields, they want to have the choice to rent out space for solar arrays. And the people who lease land are afraid they're not going to have acreage to farm and they won't be able to pay for their machinery. So we're trying to understand and accommodate it. We're also looking at dual use. I mean, how can somebody have solar and also grow a crop or raise sheep or whatever it might be? So we want to make this a win-win situation. And so we have a policy department, we have a program department, and we have an operations department. So, from policy to program, there's overlap.
Yeah.
Do we proceed on X or Y? And if so, do we implement a program? And so we have programs in multiple areas for the commercial side, for electrification of buildings, for putting solar on small rooftops to very large rooftops. Some counties, Howard County, has done terrific work in utilizing solar. They have one company in particular that they work with, CI Renewables. And again, I'm not here to sell CI Renewables, trust me. So, it's a mix and match. And we have programs that we want to make available to counties. And these are grants. These are not loans. These are grants where we might give 80 or 90%, of the cost, and to get $1 million or $500,000, the local jurisdiction may have to kick in 15%, but it might be enough to help pay for solar on a public works shed
Mhm.
And our hope is that it'll save money, their utility bill, which will relieve pressure on raising taxes. And at the same time, shift to a clean energy economy, which is better for the planet. So there's a lot going on, and I've enjoyed it because of the team, obviously the mission I believe in. Sometimes we hit some tough times.
Mhm.
The reconciliation bill by this current administration,
Rough.
removing tax credits, 30 or 40% of some projects is going to be harder to do some of these because of that action. So, look, I've got smart people around me. They make me look good. And it's been very enjoyable. It was a shift. I say I'm a recovering legislator. When you're a single person trying to influence one body, now I'm administering a staff much larger than my old staff and having hundreds of $1 millions at our hands that we collectively decide how do we budget that. It's different, but I'm liking it, enjoying it immensely.
Awesome. It sounds like quite a transition too. I definitely respect you're lobbying your fellow legislators and now you're, running an agency. How many folks work for MEA?
Low to mid 70s.
Yeah. So that's a much different animal. To transition before we talk about these big beautiful grants that are coming out,
Yes,
before we do that.
$64 million.
60, so
One
keep
time-
listening.
One-time event, people should be aware that we are almost giving away money.
So that is up next. Before we get to that, though, I do want to touch on really quick recent events in Maryland energy policy. PJM held their auction earlier this week, and it looks like rates are going to go up. We had the recent package of energy bills, which we're trying to implement. But as you just alluded to before, some of the stuff at the federal level might now impact a lot of these energy bills before we're actually implementing them. So just, broad picture, kind of where are we at? Where are we going? What's the current state of play with Maryland energy policy?
Oh, where do I start? Let's start at federal level. The reconciliation bill, some call the BBB. I don't call it a big beautiful bill. It's a big ugly bill in my perspective. It doesn't do what people want to do. It removes tax credits, which would have helped pay for 30 or 40% of a project. It also gets rid of tax credits for electric vehicles. And the irony of all this is if fewer electric vehicles are purchased, people are going to buy them from China because they are the largest manufacturer in the world. And the current president says we have to beware of China. And on the cuts in the tax credits will affect the solar industry. Well, if the tax credits go away and people don't buy solar panels from the United States, where are they going to buy them? They're going to buy them from China. And I talked with large utility scale solar companies, and they said they're so much cheaper. They'll buy them from China, and even with a tariff, they could make it work. So with all this bill, it's going to benefit the country that the current president says is our biggest enemy. So there's not a lot of logic to the bill, but it's going to really put a significant halt to some of the solar and wind projects. And I don't want to get into another one, but wind is another issue, which I know at least one county's not happy about.
Yeah, offshore wind, it's really controversial.
But I have to say, it'll power tens of thousands of homes, and reduce costs, reduce pressure to raise taxes. I understand one county's not happy. I go to the Eastern Shore and the coast a lot. I think it's intriguing. I think there'll be more people with looking glass, looking at it and be curious about it, then that it's going to drive away people. I just don't buy into that. I disagree with the mayor and the town council on that, and we just have to agree to disagree on that.
Definitely, yeah. So
and then the other issues, bills in the BG&E and PEPCO region are high. Now, actually, the rate of increase because of this recent auction is lower than it was last year. It doesn't mean rates are going to go down. It means they won't increase as fast. We think,
and it's still at a historic high because they cap the total amount that could be bid.
But I have to say, we believe BG&E is replacing some pipe that doesn't need to be replaced. And who pays for it but the ratepayers?
Mhm.
They also get a guaranteed 9.7% return on investment when all the money that's spent is not theirs.
Mhm.
So it is risk-free, and they're getting almost 10% on their investment. I don't think most people listening, even if they have any investments or stocks or bonds, are getting 10%
I'm not.
on an average year.
Yeah.
So that's a concern. And we think the PJM has not been running very well. The PJM stands for Pennsylvania, Jersey, and Maryland. That is the regional transmission operation that makes sure electrons get from the state that has an excess to the ones that need it. And so we're a member of this consortium, as you will. And we think they have slowed down bringing on new clean energy, and it's supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a small supply, prices go up. So we think there are a lot of challenges. We think that changes are needed at PJM. We think BG&E and Exelon need some changes. And of course, we'd love to see some parts of reconciliation bill changed.
So I think it's really interesting when you talk about, BG&E and what they may or may not be doing and the 9.7%. So hypothetically, we give you a magic wand, you can wave it today. What would you do to change the way Maryland Energy currently operates, whether it's at PJM or BGE or whatever? What's the biggest thing you would do to, make the energy market better?
Well, for PJM, I would approve more clean energy projects, which hopefully would move us towards clean energy instead of relying on fossil fuel. It would also, I think, bring the prices down if we had more supply.
Mm-hmm.
with the utilities.
Mm-hmm. And nuclear plays a big role in this in the future too. It would have
in
to.
Maryland, nuclear contributes 40% of the energy. And I'm someone who 40, 50 years ago protested nuclear because of 3 Mile Island, what happened, so then the Soviet Union. But climate change is such a major, major problem. I think we might have to rely on nuclear energy. And we had a consultant say, how can we get to 100% clean energy? And the consultant said, you've got to double your nuclear output. So I think there are new ways to do it. Mm-hmm. Instead of the big kind of towers, things called SMR, small modular reactors. We're looking at those as well. We think Maryland has to move in that direction. And the other thing is I would require the utilities to show cause why they needed to put certain pipe, mm-hmm. not have a free reign of replacing pipe that doesn't need to be replaced, because the ratepayers will be paying for that in their rates mm-hmm. for 30 years. And in 15 years, we might not need that gas and oil. We might have clean energy or nuclear energy. And we have to play the long game here. And we got to figure out what are the right investments.
We can go for hours on this particular
topic. We want to get
topic.
to the big project.
Yeah. So
and I want to bring in Lacey as well. Let me introduce it and then pass it on to her.
By all means, sir.
In the last budget, $64 million was appropriated for us to give to local counties and municipalities. This is a one-time deal. Now, we also have programs that are available to local. So this is not the only way they can receive money.
But this is a separate from.
It's a separate
one time.
Okay. In addition to the programs that they pursue, and Lacey might mention some of them in a minute. And MEA is going to be paying the overwhelming amount of the money. And the counties are going to have a small skin in the game piece, but it's going to be very modest. And we believe that the savings from energy are going to lower their cost, and they're going to save money. And we think it's going to be good for the local jurisdictions, the counties, where hopefully it'll release some pressure to raise taxes, which I know a lot don't want to do. But if they can save some money by having clean energy and also, by the way, helping save the planet, we think it's a win-win situation. And the way it works is it's going to be a formulaic grant. And these go anywhere from $1 million to $7 million. I mean, think about that.
So each county is guaranteed a minimum of $1 million, up to $7 million.
Yes.
Low skin in the game. It's a very small match. MEA is going to pay out most of it.
Right. And all this is being done with a acknowledgement that the ITC, the tax credits, will go away. So, for example, if it takes $500,000 to put up a solar array over your public works building or over your town office building or library, whatever, or maybe doing a solar array over a parking lot and having chargers. I mean, we're leaving the flexibility to the local counties.
But it's not only solar. You can do energy efficiency. You can do.
Well, I'm going to give that to Lacey in a minute.
Okay.
There's some flexibility.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what we love big checks and we love flexibility. We love the state.
Well, we want people to apply. And then if all the counties don't participate, the amount of available money is going to go up. But even if all of them participate, the lowest appropriation will be $1.1 million available for the smallest, poorest county, going up to $7 million, and that could increase.
I'm excited. Give me more details. Keep going.
Well, you first apply, then the formula kicks in, and it's adjusted, as I said, depending on how many counties apply. And then you can come up with what project where. You're going to have time to do that, submit that, and then the money will get released. And if I'm going to use an example here, for $400,000, you might have to put in $20,000, but you will recoup that very quickly. And probably in a few months after that, you're going to save money. And so we think for an economic side, put aside clean energy and environment and all that stuff, this is a win. And it's a cheap win because we're basically covering all the costs, including the lost tax credits that went away. So let me conclude with this and pass it on to Lacey. There's some counties that have applied for grants frequently. And look, some of them are the larger counties. They know how to work this out.
Big eight, yeah.
Exactly. The smaller counties that haven't accessed money, we want to open the door and welcome them in, and we will handhold. Technical assistance, how do we do this? We will connect you with the right people to do it. So we think when there's free money, that hopefully all of the 23 plus Baltimore City say, damn, we can do this, lower our bill, and if they're willing to help us, Lacey and her folks, we want to make it easy. We don't want you to have to jump through hoops. But again, this is a one-time offer, and it's going to go live, I think, tomorrow, and they'll have a number of months to decide.
Now, when you say live tomorrow, well, we mean live July 25th.
Yeah, so maybe tomorrow. Sometime at least within July. So that gives us a few days. Ideally tomorrow.
Okay.
There's a few more meetings that have to take place, but yeah, it's launching soon.
But within a week.
Within a week.
So if you're a county person, watch your email for an obnoxious message from me and from Lacey to apply for this one-time offer.
Yeah,
all right.
Absolutely.
So give me more, Lacey. Tell me about this flexibility. What do you need from us? Let's go into the details.
Absolutely. Oh, it's hard to follow our fearless leader, Paul Pinsky. But yeah, I'm so excited about this program. When I first came in to Maryland Energy Administration, I signed up for a $2 million program, right? And I first saw that on LinkedIn. I'm like, $2 million. I kind of decide where that goes. That's wild. I didn't feel like I had the chops to take that on. And then after a few months working here, suddenly it goes from 2 million to 64 million. So I don't know how that was thrust upon me, but I'm so happy and excited to be in this position. And I'm excited to work with local governments. That's why they hired me. I'm very communicative and really appreciate feedback. And I love.
It's been great to work with so far. So I know my members are going to love you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure working with you as well, Dom. But yeah, to speak specifically to this program, it's called the Local Government Energy Modernization Program. And I'll get into the name a little bit first. LGEM. So
love it.
You helped us decide the name on that one as well. But we wanted to change it from what it was previously called Maryland Smart Energy Communities. And so we wanted to change it because this is government only. We want to specifically focus on our local governments and help them get the resources they need for these really important projects. And so designing this program was really difficult at first, how do you go from $2 million to 64? We had a lot of discussion, and thanks to Paul's help, we decided to have it in 4 different areas of interest. One of them is the most important for this conversation. That is the formulaic block grant. And so for your listeners that might not know what a block grant is, it's essentially just a lump sum of money given to a local government upfront. So you have an idea of how much funding there is for these projects.
Now, where can the counties find like what their formula breakdown would be? Are you guys gonna include that information when you launch?
Oh, absolutely.
We're still working on that.
Okay.
We have the policy side. We're fine-tuning the money.
Okay, the operational.
Yeah, and as I said, at a minimum, it's 1.1 million. But if only 14 or 15 of the 23 or 24, then it's going to actually make more money available. So it's
we're shooting for 24. We're going to go 24 for 24.
Absolutely.
With the help of you, of course.
Amen.
Right. So they have an idea of how much money they get before they even know what projects they all want to apply for. But the beauty of this is they don't even have to compete for funding. Counties specifically in the block grant. It's theirs so long as they apply. And we designed it specifically to be flexible. And local governments can submit and complete projects over a 36-month timeline. And so, like Paul mentioned earlier, we've reduced the cost share pretty significantly. From the old $2 million program, it used to be 15%. But we want to help counties and municipalities out more. So we're reducing it to 5 and 10%, depending on your county. So, and all of that information will be included in the funding opportunity announcement.
That's important. We were going to hold on that comment, but I mean, think about only having to give hypothetically, because it's not in paper yet, only 5% to release X amount of dollars.
You know, I wish more state agencies operated this way.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and they were like, "Oh, your program is getting more money? Like now, today, with everything else going on in the policy world?"
Well, and it's so important too, because energy has just become such a bigger and bigger issue.
Talk about some things it'll cover.
Some things that it'll cover. So the eligible activities include renewable energy, installing solar panels, canopies, rooftop solar, geothermal heat pumps, and a unique one that we've added is also landfill gas to energy.
Okay.
So we've heard some counties may be out of compliance with that, with capping their landfills. So we'd like to help them utilize that excess methane and serving a bigger need for that. But we also have energy efficiency projects. And so that can just be building envelope, weatherization, plugging the holes in your building, which is really important. Maryland has a lot of really old buildings, especially compared to Colorado, so I've learned. So this is a really important measure for that as well. But envelope measures don't exactly have like the best payback on paper, but it's really important to have these, especially if you're installing solar or efficient appliances. If you keep the heat inside the building separate from the temperature outside, then you're just operating more efficiently and saving a lot more money. We also have electrification, and that was something that was really pushed for from our local government feedback. Speaking of feedback, coming into this, not having any experience with designing a program, let alone a $64 million program, I really leveraged the expertise from our local governments. And I was concerned for a while that I was, creating feedback fatigue. I'm constantly reaching out. What do you guys want? Like, how can we help you guys as we're designing this program? And there's so many ways we got feedback. The most important one was our request for information, and that helped influence a lot of this program. So happy to work with local governments before program launches, but especially after. So
and let me just add here, next month we're going to have a fairly large contingent at the MEA conference, and we'll have a booth. So if people want even more detail, I'll probably be touching on this when I speak, and we have other people on the panel, but we will be around. So in other words, if a county commissioner says, look, how would this work for my county, or what kind of projects? And again, most projects have been done somewhere in the state. So we can connect them and point them to if it was ground-based solar connected to the town hall, whatever, we'll have staff at MEA who can do more detailed information.
Awesome. Any other thoughts on the program? Like anything else our folks should know before it's launched in about a week or so?
So we've only covered the counties so far.
I mean, we can talk about the municipalities that, their office is down the street, but I know they listen. So.
I just want to say, like, if they're your listeners, and it's important to not leave them out too. So
by all means, yeah, go for it.
Into the formulaic non-competitive block grant, we do have a competitive grant, and that looks typically like what the old Maryland Smart Energy Communities program looked like. So they do compete for projects up front.
And is that just for municipalities, that competitive tranche?
If a county doesn't want to participate in the block grant, which we really want all of them to.
Oh, we're going to get 24 for 24.
Going to the block grant. If they just had one project that they wanted to apply for, sure, they can apply for the competitive ones. Mm-hmm. Then you have to compete, with all these other municipalities that can't qualify for the block grant.
And it's a smaller amount of money.
Okay.
It's a smaller amount of
money.
But
they need to understand you can't do both.
Okay.
Can't do both.
But I know which one I would pick.
There is an availability.
So we do have that option. We don't want to leave out our municipalities. So, but the biggest piece is the formulaic block grant, and we're really excited to see how many counties we can get on board.
Awesome.
But this does not replace our ongoing programs that we have that counties can apply for. You want to mention a couple of them? Are there any others besides?
All of our programs that we offer?
Yeah.
Oh, we have a bunch
Just mention
programs.
A few.
Yeah, so we've got the Resilient Maryland program, community solar. Those are just like some of our bigger renewable energy programs. We also have a lot of energy efficiency ones. Similar to my program, we have one for schools. We have some for commercial buildings. We have home energy rebates. We have a lot of programs the Maryland Energy Administration offers.
Now, they are let every year. Mm-hmm. This will not be repeated. So, I hate to say folks need to jump on this, but
jump.
It's a pretty good deal.
It's just the funding amount that won't be repeated. We'll continue to have a program for our local governments. And so they can always come talk to us, but now it's probably
this LGEM is quite a gem.
It is quite a gem.
Yeah.
It's a gem of an opportunity. Absolutely. That's kind of why we like the name so much.
Awesome. So do you guys have kind of any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
We want to make this as easy as possible. And if a small county, usually the smaller counties that don't have the resources or the planning department or sustainability officer like a Howard or Montgomery County have, we want to help you come in the door, and Lacey and other people can walk you through it. Mm-hmm. And if you said, so we're a county of X amount of people, we have 3 buildings, we have 2 parks, what can we do to lower our utility bill? And we can give examples. We're actually developing some examples of what the cost would be, what you would pay, what we would pay, whether it would take you 2 months or 6 months to recoup your 5-10%, whatever it is, and then how much you'd save. So we will even have those examples. So we want to welcome people. We know, as I said, the Big 8, they've utilized many of our programs. A lot of the other smaller counties haven't had the resource or the time or the capacity to do it. This is simple. It's almost free money, and we're going to help you through it.
Awesome. I think that is a phenomenal note to end on. So really quick before folks hop off, we are just 2 weeks away, 2 weeks from the 2025 MEA Summer Conference. While you're there, be sure to stop at the MEA booth. Also, always love the socks every year.
We have new ones.
We have new socks. I always have to get a pair of socks. As always, it will be held at the Roland Powell Convention Center in Ocean City. It runs from August 13th to 16th. And honestly, just like this podcast is the best podcast we've recorded yet, this is going to be the best conference we've done so far. So Paul, Lacey, thank you both for coming on. Thank you both for how you continue to partner with counties. Even when we do have disagreements, we always have that partnership. I can't wait to have you guys back on this pod and hopefully have another great program we can talk about.
That was a great send off. I just remembered one more thing if you want to talk about in addition to financial support and resources, there are loads of other opportunities and resources besides just money out there. We have the Clean Buildings Hub, and that's a specific opportunity we have for any kind of stakeholder that really helps, especially with building energy performance standards. It has technical assistance, guides you to other organizations that can really help you start these projects, especially if you have no idea where to begin. So that's a really important resource for people to check out. We also
Sounds like we have to have a part two.
Sounds like a part two with Becky Price. Yeah. She'd love to talk about it.
Let's set it up. I can't wait. Can't wait.
We'd love to hear from our counties. I want to converse with you all. I want to hear how we can help you with these projects. We want to spend this money. We want to help you spend this money. So.
All right. Let's get her done. 24 for 24.
24 for 24.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.